Hey guys. So welcome to yet another BA Strategies live Facebook chat. Today's topic is going to be blogging. And so what we're going to talk about today is a great way to create content, how to think up good content ideas, and just some of the tips and tricks. And today, I always say I'm going to keep this relatively brief, and I realize I've gone over 20 minutes the last two times. So today, I really promise that I'm going to try and do better about, being brief with everything. So we'll start it off with choosing a subject. All right. So let me know as I go along. Feel free to leave comments on the video. Happy to answer them afterwards. Hop on Messenger, send us a Facebook message, send us an email, contact at BA Strategies if you've got any questions. But we'll start off with choosing a subject because obviously, let's say for this entire conversation, we're going to assume that you already have your blog laid out and designed. Design is sort of a completely different aspect. It's something that we do, but right now we want to talk to people whether you're just starting off a WordPress.com account or if you've got a professional blog, how to create great blog content. So the first thing you're going to want to do is choose a subject, all right? And there are a couple rules you're going to want to follow here. The first and most basic rule that you can follow here is to pick something that you know about. All right, that seems a little obvious, right? To pick something that you know about. And it's okay if you have to research things or get sources to cite. Facts are always great in a blog post. Obviously, it's going to depend a little bit about what type of voice you're going for. But don't pick something that you wish you were an expert in. Don't try to sell somebody on something that you're not an expert in, because especially if you're a small business owner, and unfortunately, I know a couple people that have learned this the hard way. If you're a small business owner and you try to sell somebody on something that you don't know about, that's probably going to come back to bite you, because you're selling yourself. When you're a small business, you're selling yourself, and you're selling your knowledge and expertise in whatever field it is, whether you're a dentist. I mean, God knows if you say that you can do a certain dental procedure and you can't, you're going to be up a creek without a paddle. Same goes if you're a hairdresser that's talking about certain styles or trends. It really doesn't matter what you're trying to accomplish, but pick something you know at least enough about that you could write down most of your thoughts. Back some up with stats, back some up with evidence from other sources, that's fine, but really stick to your wheelhouse. It's also important to think about what your goals are for your blog. Now, that may seem kind of obvious. I want to get more customers. In fact, that's what we always sort of tell you. Come to BA Strategies, will help you get more customers. Build a blog, you can get more customers. Customers don't always have to be the goal, though. We actually have a client, and I know plenty of businesses, where their goal of a blog is to get new employees. They want to reach out in recruiting efforts, right? And they want to get high quality employees. And maybe for your particular blog post that month, that's what you're looking for. So instead of talking about the greatest design tips in hairdressing, talk about why your salon is perfect for someone who wants to work there. And so those goals are really helpful. And again, that's sort of like tapping into your knowledge base. It seems a little obvious, but make sure when you're choosing a subject, it falls in line with your goals, not just something that you feel like writing about at that time. And speaking of time, timeliness is key. Let's say you own a clothing shop. Now, December, not the time to be talking about what swimsuits to wear. Maybe you're going to want to write a post on what winter coat is best that will go with absolutely everything. See, I know a little bit about fashion. Um, but you want to pick something that's timely. Especially with the holiday season coming up, timeliness is really key. If there's something that you're trying to sell at that particular time, something that's on special, something that's new, you open a new store location, maybe that's what you want to blog about. And then last but not least, when you're choosing a subject, think a little bit about your personality. Is this subject something, let's say your personality, you're a data-driven person. Is this subject something that's very, for lack of a better term, subjective, or is it something that can be data-driven, that can be backed up with facts, that you are going to want to talk about and supplement with data? Or are you a goofy type of person that really wants to just show off your funny side and really let people get to know you and get comfortable with you. Both types of blog posts are okay. Again, remember, think about your goals, but then also think about your personality. What do you want to write about? What kind of voice do you want to have? And is the subject you're choosing going to allow you to have that type of voice? All right. So once you've picked your subject, then you're going to want to talk about your content. All right. So now we'll move on to writing the content. Now, I'm not going to get into a huge conversation here about SEO because SEO is a very big, broad, and somewhat complicated topic. But the fact of the matter is you need to know about keywords. All right. And keywords are what Google, Bing, Yahoo, you name it, all the search engines look for when they're scanning the internet to find relevant results. And so you're going to want to think when you're creating your content, what keywords are you trying to target? For example, let's go back to our clothing store example, writing about winter coats. All right, you're going to want to target things like winter coats, overcoats, jackets, different materials that maybe they're made out of, certain styles. All right, figure out those keywords, figure out those kinds of things that you want to rank on. And then when you're writing the content, make sure to weave them in. Now, there's good and bad SEO, and again, I promised I wouldn't get deep into all the things that SEO is about because that's a very deep hole that we could spend hours in. But when you're thinking about keywords and writing with keywords, the best piece of advice I can give you is to not stuff them in there. Speak naturally. If you have an opportunity to use the keyword, use it, but don't make it seem like it's out of thin air because that's going to come off as keyword stuffing and Google doesn't like it. So talk naturally. And let's say jackets is your keyword of choice. Coats, that's a synonym. Synonyms are fine. Synonyms are okay. If you've ever noticed when you do a Google search, Google is smart. They understand synonyms. And sometimes they'll say, did you mean this? When you're talking about one particular thing because maybe those search results are a little more relevant. But they notice different formations of words. They notice, plural, singular, those different types of things. So give Google some credit. But basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to have a conversation with the reader and you're trying to get those keywords in there because Google's in the business of giving people the best results for their queries, right? Everybody wants to find some magical formula of how to rank for Google, but what you're trying to do is if people are searching for winter coats in the greater Milwaukee area, you want to talk about the different kinds of coats that you have available and you want to talk a little bit about Milwaukee so that your results pop up when people are searching for that. The next thing you want to do is you want to be brief, but you want to be thorough. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but listen, you don't want to ramble on, making your point 10 different ways, 10 different times, especially if this is some of your early content. All right, you need to get readers in there, you need to get them hooked, and the best way to do that is to have easy, digestible content, not something that they have to slog through over 1,000 or 2,000 words, right? So you really want to be brief. We recommend somewhere in the 500 word range. You can go as low as 300 or 400 if you think you can make your point there, but try not to get up into the 1,000 words. Count your words, figure out how long it is to read, all right? And figure out, I've always heard a rule when I was learning about writing. One of my professors in college told me pretty much every piece of writing that's ever existed, you could cut out 10% of the words if you really wanted to. So figure out how you can make your point, but be brief about it. That sort of goes back into into our second point, which is make your point. Too often I see with people beginning down their blogging journey, whether it's a personal blog or whether it's a business blog, they don't always remember to make their point, okay? If you're a business, you're starting a blog, you're trying to sell something, whether that's yourself or a particular product, your personality, your brand, whatever it is, you're trying to sell something. And each blog post, if you've chosen the right subject, you're trying to get a certain point across. Make sure you get that point across. Because if you don't, then you've wasted your time and the reader's probably not going to come back because they're not going to find it useful. The more people come back, the longer they stay on your page, and the more relevant your results are, that's going to go back and help you with search engines. And last but not least, when you're talking about content, be yourself. This sort of goes back to tapping into your knowledge and figuring out your personality, but it's very important to be yourself when you're a blog writer. Obviously, if you're a little, if you're a little offbeat, if you're unique in any way, try to make that shine through, because if you're like everybody else out there writing about whatever subject you've picked, you're going to come across as just that, another face in the crowd. Figure out what makes you different, what makes you stand out, and try to highlight that in the blog post. Interject a little bit of your personality. If you're goofy, if you're witty, if you're insightful, highlight those things. All right? So those are the tips on writing the content. And then we've got a couple other tips. See, I'm flying through this. I told you I'd try to be brief today. So after you're talking about the content, here's a couple other tips that we have for you. All right? Headlines. These follow some of the very same rules as writing your content. When you're talking about headlines, you definitely want to try and include your keywords if possible. You want to include that in the headline. You want to include that in the URL, which usually most blogging platforms will base the URL off of what your headline is. But let's say you've got a WordPress site set up and it automatically just lists all your posts based on the date. Change it up, okay? Make sure that your headline is in there, your keywords are in the URL, your keywords are in the headline, all right? Make sure it's brief. Get to the point. Most people don't want long, wordy headlines. They want something catchy. They can easily read, figure out what it's about, and decide whether to click or not, all right? Make your point in your headline a little bit, all right? You don't want your headline to be about, why style is king, and then you're trying to sell winter coats, all right? Don't mean to beat that example into the ground, but you do want to keep that in mind. And again, be yourself. If you're a funny person, don't write super serious headlines. Be a little goofy. You have some space there to show your personality. Write frequently. That's our next tip. All right? Write frequently. And frequently doesn't have to mean every day. Now, it depends on your brand. We recommend that everybody posts their blog at least once a month. Okay? And I know that gets hard. I've struggled with that at times myself. Find different types of content to post to your blog. So if you're doing a Twitter Q&A, take all those results and put them in a blog post one week in lieu of your typical advice column if you don't have time. That's what we recommend for brands to see the best results, is to consistently post different types of content very frequently. And I don't want to say as frequently as possible, because sometimes then you get into the problem of you're posting too much, way more than you need. And the last thing you want to do is outpublish the number of ideas you have. If you've got 10 great ideas and you're publishing every single day, and then all of a sudden you get into week 2 and you can't come up with an idea for the next 4 months, again, sends you up a creek without a paddle. You would have been much better off posting every week or every other week. But try to post at least once a month. And then get the word out on social media. Whether that's your business channels, definitely post there, all right? Building traffic is going to be key. The number of people that visit your site and stay to your site, stay on your blog, that's going to help you, again, with your search engine optimization, all right? So make sure you're promoting it on social media. Make sure you're witty, you're engaging, you're showing off your personality in the subject, in the headline, in the content, and on social media. And also post to your personal social media. I feel like this is one that people overlook sometimes, especially when it comes to blogging. You don't have to share every one of your business page's posts to your personal Facebook page. That's going to get overwhelming for you. Your friends probably aren't going to like it. But when you're writing something, I notice this a lot. When friends write something and say, hey guys, I wrote a thing, check it out. Here's some of my writing. People are usually going to give that a shot. And they may be hooked on the way you write stuff. So definitely share it on social media. And don't just share it once, all right? If you've got a piece of content that was relevant 6 months ago and is maybe relevant again, post it again several months later. Obviously, don't post it every single day. Hey, in case you missed yesterday's blog post, here it is again. Don't do that. But make sure you're posting regularly. All right, so just to recap, choose a great subject that you know a lot about. It fits your goals. It's timely based on what your business is doing. It reflects your personality. Then write the content. Make sure you're including relevant keywords. Make sure it's brief, around 500 words, especially for your first ones until you really get a readership. All right? Make your point. And again, inject your personality and be yourself. Take all those rules, apply them to your headlines as well. All right? Make sure you're writing often and post it to social media. All right, guys, like I said, this is a pretty brief one. That's all we've got. Feel free to head over to our blog, though, because Kelly has got a great post on how blogging can be beneficial to your business. And look out for our page later this week, because speaking of timeliness, we're actually going to have a blogging deal coming up throughout the month of December, where we're going to give a huge discount on writing blog posts. So if you're like, this is all great, this is all fantastic tips, but I don't have time to write a blog post, we've got your back. All right, so be on the lookout for that. Stay tuned to our Facebook page and